Listen, I've talked about the Steam Deck a lot, and it's no secret that it was one of my favorite gadgets, and it still is, by the way. But as much as I have already compared the Steam Deck to the ROG Ally, I think it's only fair to grab an Ally X and really give it its own review. Now, I've used the ROG Ally in the past, but I haven't used the X, and I haven't actually owned one. So I have one now, decide if I actually want to keep it, but we're going to put it through its test. I'm going to see how I really enjoy it. Let's get into it. All right, I've been gaming on this thing for about a week, and honestly, my opinions have kind of shifted throughout the week on what I think of this thing. When I first unboxed the Ally, I did it on camera, you're seeing it right now. It was kind of, the unboxing experience was whatever, but the thing was dead, and that was really disappointing. Plugged it in, was like, okay, as soon as this thing's charged up, I'm gonna download some games, get to gaming. I was sorely mistaken because then I had to go through Windows updates. This is a variety of little clips I took with my phone throughout the entire night. I would just walk around with the Ally, watch a show with the Ally, just waiting for it to be done and updated so I could just go play some games. And this is completely leaving out the fact that besides the updates, setting up Windows with a touchscreen on a little tiny thing is miserable. I don't care about OneDrive. So that was just a really bad first impression, and it really soured my view of the ROG Ally X right off the bat. Initially, it was immediately bad. But then I kept using it, right? Once I actually got into the system, it was a little more complicated. For one, your base screen being Windows, I'm not a huge fan of it. Windows is just not good on a touchscreen, on a small screen. It's just the wrong operating system for this type of thing. Because what you have to do immediately is, especially because there's no in-operating system tutorial like you see on other handhelds, you have to just click Internet Explorer with your finger and start searching up Steam and that kind of stuff. If you look up some tutorials and figure out some things, scan the QR codes provided, you'll figure out about Armory Crate and that kind of stuff. And Armory Crate is really good. Armory Crate is kind of the dashboard hub of the system that they wanted, but they couldn't put it in because of Windows, so they had to wait till you go into Windows, then open Armory Crate. But any games that you have installed with shortcuts on your device will pop up here, so you can boot them all through there, which is really nice. And then they also have a game platforms tab, which allows you to tap and it'll link you straight to the download page, which I also found incredibly helpful. And frankly, if you were just using Armory Crate, it is a pretty nice system, but you are forced to leave it to go into Internet Explorer and go into system settings or go hunt down this AMD driver. Do all of this really tedious PC stuff with a tiny touchscreen that is essentially operating as a tablet. And I know I came off kind of ranty here, but man, the operating system on the ROG Ally X is miserable. It feels almost anti-consumer. It is so bad, it's hilarious, and that sucks. Armory Crate though is kind of nice, and once you can get there, it's good. But using the ROG Ally X when you're trying to go between games, installing stuff, managing your system actually, is really just running out into the wilds, trying to get stuff done. It's miserable, you're fighting, you're troubleshooting, and then you can run back to the Armory Crate, and it's safe, simple, and easy, and just plays games. And that's what this thing is supposed to do. This is a game console that is supposed to just play PC games. The ergonomics are also something kind of interesting about this. The ROG Ally X is pretty heavy. I will say it is a little bit heavy to the point where it can be really uncomfortable if you're not resting your arms while holding it. It's also very dense, which it just makes it feel heavier than it probably is. It can be kind of uncomfortable holding it out. I've had to do that while holding it in front of a tripod for the camera. It's not comfortable, and the ergonomics do not help that. I have read all across the internet that the ergonomics on this are better than the original ROG Ally, which is really sad because that means the ROG Ally probably had some of the worst ergonomics I've ever heard of. The ergonomics here are solidly okay, but the one thing I will say is that using the Steam Deck like I have a lot maybe spoiled me, because the ergonomics there are pretty top tier, and these are pretty shallow. The grips are shallow, there's a little bit of harsh angle that kind of pushes into your hand. The back buttons protrude out of the system, making it so you can't keep your fingers flush to the back. They kind of have to float a little bit on top of the buttons. Also, there's just no comfortable place to put your pinky. So it is what it is. Ergonomics are okay. I've been in playing games on it and enjoying them enough, but also sometimes just kind of annoying. The buttons are nice. The sticks are nice, right? The RGB rings on the sticks are kind of cool. I kind of want to turn them off, but they're nice. The bumpers feel good. The triggers feel good, even though they're really, really wide, which is kind of interesting, but they do feel good. So all around, I think the design is fine. It's just a black handheld. Looks like like an average gamer device. ROG does pretty gamery stuff, so there's nothing really special about it. It's just a handheld. The display is something worth talking about too. The display here is both amazing and terrible. For one, I either use a studio display, which is like super high resolution, gorgeous, amazing display, or I'm using an OLED display. So going back to a regular LCD IPS panel like this is a little bit disappointing. There is not that much color. There is not that much contrast or depth. It is just higher resolution at 1080p and it's 120 hertz. So whatever you are looking at is higher resolution than some of the competitors, and it is very smooth. I will give it that. It has the power inside the system to run games quite well. I'm playing games on here that I haven't played on other systems, and that's really fun. The display doesn't make them look great, but they're still fun to play. And that leads me to the games. Playing games on this thing is really fun when it works. Before I actually talk about my experience playing games, I have to remind you that we are using a Windows device, so we have all the gaming problems that Windows has on occasion. Which means sometimes when I boot up a game, the display, I just can't see it. The audio starts, but the display is not there, and then I have to tap the search bar and type in Task Manager with the thing, end task, or plug in a keyboard and Alt Tab. I have to do weird stuff like that. Sometimes games start in windowed mode, and because of the gamepad setting you have, the touchscreen's not registering mouse inputs, so you can't go to settings and set to full screen or close the window and reopen the window. There are little bugs like that that get really tedious. They aren't super often, but any Windows gamer knows that they happen often enough that it's kind of annoying. The only difference here is you don't have a keyboard and a mouse to easily solve the issue. You have to use a touchscreen on a very small, scaled down Windows device. Getting into games though, it is really great. I like playing games on here, I'll be honest. And I know I've been kind of smacking this thing, but, and I won't talk about the price yet, I would play more games on this. I would keep playing games on this. I would consider that. I would not even consider it. I would. I enjoy playing games on this, and I have actually been playing a lot of games on it over this last week. Specifically, I really like Destiny 2. Playing Destiny 2 on this thing in bed is really nice. When I play in bed, and call back to the last video, I have to use the V-Tour glasses because this handheld is just way too heavy for me to hold over my head in bed. So I put the glasses on, connect to a controller, and I play this in bed. It's fantastic. It's powerful. I can play Destiny 2. That is amazing. Run strikes. I can do all that kind of stuff. Grind up engrams. It's a great time. I can play other multiplayer games like Call of Duty and Halo on here. Some of those shooters like Apex and Halo are available on the Steam Deck, which I'm not trying to talk about very much, and you can play them, but I don't actually like playing games like that, multiplayer games, competitive games, on the Steam Deck because of a couple variables and latency and resolution, that kind of stuff. And in multiplayer games like these fast-paced first-person shooters, you have to be able to have some sort of reaction time, and playing on here is good. It is very good. Even if I'm only pulling 30 to 40 frames in something like Call of Duty, I can still have fun, get a couple streaks, run around. It's a good time, and it's really awesome to be able to do that on a handheld that does have the power to handle it. Even games like Elden Ring looks better on the ROG Ally X to a certain extent. It's enjoyable to play, it's incredibly smooth, but at the same time, it's just less colorful and less immersive. Something I will say is the speakers, because wow, they project like a Dolby Atmos surround sound. They are incredibly loud. They are really, really impressive and incredibly immersive. And I do not know why they just popped off that hard with the speakers on this system, because all I can say is wow, the speakers are insane on here. I think what you think of this device depends on what you think a gaming handheld should be. This is not a gaming PC. The ROG Ally X is not a gaming PC. It is a handheld, and that makes it a console. And so I believe that it is obligated to deliver a certain amount of the console experience and the PC experience. Handhelds should be the perfect middle ground between console gamers and PC gamers. They're priced as such, they function as such, they only run a controller as such. They are that perfect middle ground to bring people from one set of equipment to another. PC gaming, also for non-tech people and console users, is very daunting, and the ROG Ally X does nothing to really help those people out. Frankly, if I was not a tech person and I had only ever owned a PlayStation 4 and played FIFA and Call of Duty every day, and I thought I should get a PC because it's supposedly a better gaming experience, and I turned this thing on, I would have had the worst experience of my life life, and I probably would have returned it immediately. The other hand, though, is that I am a tech guy. I know how to navigate Windows. I know how to do this stuff. So even though it was incredibly tedious, I did it, and now I can play games. And playing the games is fun. That does bring in the price, though. We need to talk about the price. This thing is $800. That is a lot of money. And it prices itself at that level because it can market it is just the most powerful handheld gaming device. But I have to put into question if that's even worth it, and that's what handheld PC gaming is for. Pumping out a ton of wattage and having the fans go crazy is kind of annoying in a handheld. All you need in a handheld to be really happy is to be able to play the games you want to play comfortably, them to look good, them to sound good, and to have decent battery life, which this does have, I will say. Getting 2 to 3 hours when playing a game on like middle settings, it's solid. I will give it that. They did a really good job on the battery, but I still feel like it's weird spending $800 for a powerful, tiny gaming handheld, because ROG makes gaming laptops that are more powerful than this, and when you catch them on sales at Best Buy, they're at the same price, if not a little bit cheaper, or like only $50 more. My girlfriend has an ROG gaming laptop. I got her that for about $850, and I can play Call of Duty on it more comfortably than I can on here. It's a bigger display, it is a higher refresh rate, and if I really want to use a controller, I can just plug a controller into it. At this power level and this price, I feel like a gaming laptop just makes more sense. If handheld PCs and gaming laptops are an attempt to provide a good gaming experience on the go, then a gaming laptop is a much more suitable place for an expensive and higher quality mobile gaming experience. The ROG Ally X makes sense in a bubble. It is a gaming PC, it is a handheld, they put a ton of juice into that thing, and go play all your Windows games on it. But in actual execution, I don't think it is a good experience for the end user, and I think the money could be much better spent elsewhere. And that's me talking about it as its own device. I do think, though, that the ROG Ally X does some things incredibly well. Like I said, the speakers are immersive. High resolution 120 Hz is cool, even though it's not really that colorful or an OLED, which would be great. Battery is great. You can play lots of games, you can play them well, and that is really cool, but $800 is too steep. Maybe this technology gets a little cheaper in the future, and if this comes in at $599, maybe we have a really compelling device. I just think the ROG Ally X feels a little bit like early technology. We get really cool glimpses of what the future of handhelds can be, or the future of different technologies can be, whenever somebody releases something that's really awesome. It's generally really expensive, it generally does some pretty cool stuff, but all in all, it doesn't deliver a really great consumer experience at the end of the day. And that's where I think we are with the ROG Ally X. I think the technology needs to get a little bit better to deliver this experience in a proper way, and I think they really need to figure out how they handle the operating system and software end of things, because running just a native Windows 11 footprint on a handheld like this, and especially not having anything like a haptic touchpad to use a mouse at any given time, is a horrible idea, and it is one of the worst user experiences I've ever had with a piece of technology. If you want one of these, get yourself a gaming laptop. It's just going to be a better investment. Thank you so much for watching. I did launch members on the channel. I'm doing those in place of anything like Patreon. I want to say thank you to D Sanchez for becoming a member. He is my one and only member, and I love you, man. Thank you so much. And if you are interested in it, do all kinds of cool bonuses. There's emojis, Discord, YouTube strategy coaching, all kinds of cool stuff. Check it out if you're interested. Like and subscribe. Make sure to come back next week. I got another video, and then the week after that, we got the battle of the handhelds between the ROG Ally X and the Steam Deck. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.